Rahul Pandit with us and also Dr. Hemant to discuss the impact of the current news around the vaccinations and the AstraZeneca vaccine in particular. Dr. Thacker, let me come to you first on the concerns that are brewing and the fact that even in India, primarily, of course, we've been seeing a massive rollout of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Have there been any such side effects that have been noted here in a significant manner or volume, given that so many of the major countries in Europe are suspending the rollout of the vaccine?
To be honest, no, we are not seeing anything like this. And to me, this appears to be a coincidental phenomena because the incidence of thromboembolic phenomena that they have reported is the same as one sees in the routine population. It just happened that those people who were vaccinated manifested their thromboembolic phenomena. In fact, the European Medicine Agency is investigating this and still hasn't come up with anything. Remember, this is the same continent and those countries which reported a few months ago, I don't know how many months ago, that following Pfizer's vaccination in Scandinavia, there were lots of deaths and they wanted to put a stop to it. So I think they're being extremely cautious and trying to, jump the gun, I would say, in India and in UK, which have been the maximum users of the Astra vaccine. Nothing like this has been reported. And I'm quite confident that we'll continue with this and there won't be any issues.
Okay. Dr. Pandit, let me get your perspective as well. Do you feel that there is that perhaps some of the European medical agencies are being extra cautious, or once again is India managing to display a different trend to the rest of the world? Because we have been seeing, a lot of people have talked about how perhaps some of the East Asian countries have responded differently to of course COVID as well as to the treatment.
So I think the European nations which have sort of put up a ban or put up a temporary suspension of the Covishield vaccine are actually displaying probably a cautious or extra cautious reaction. If you look at the incidence of thromboembolism, which is your venous clots in the venous system, which is what they've reported around, as of March 9th or 10th, they had reported 22 cases of the 3 million vaccinations which had happened, which is extremely low. If you actually go and read medical literature, the incidence of thromboembolism probably is 1 in 1,000 or approximately 100 per 100,000. And that is definitely higher than what they have reported right now. So I really don't think that we should be actually going across that trend. They seem to have a very, very extra cautious approach whenever such things happen. And I agree with my co-panelist, Dr. Hemant Thacker, that this is the same Scandinavian countries who sort of had a hue and cry over the deaths reported after the Pfizer. And I think in India, we should basically deep dive into the data. The data is available for the Indian authorities to have a look at. We should basically do a quick survey of the people who have been vaccinated. And I think we should come out with science. We should come out and say that, hey, look, we don't have any incidents of unusual incidents of thromboembolism seen in our population. And we should publish that data and make it available in the public domain. I think that's the only way you can dispel the fear which is basically been formed in this manner. The second thing which the government could do is basically have a prospective reporting of the complications, the clotting complications basically been reported on a prospective manner. And that would again sort of have us a good data because we are vaccinating almost 10 lakh people every day. And if we sort of have 3 or 4 million people data over the next month or so, we will be able to basically have a very clear understanding of where we are going.
That's exactly what I wanted to understand, Dr. Thacker, whether or not there have been any cases wherein there have been severe side effects of the vaccination. I mean, I understand that European nations began the vaccination rollout ahead of us, but so far in India, how are people, most have only got their first jabs, but how are they holding up?
I think I entirely agree with Dr. Pandit. In India, we have rolled out to the majority of the people Covishield, which is the one which the Europeans wish to bring under a cloud. And as my panelists said, co-panelists, nothing we have got to this extent where we can even cast the slightest of aspersion that venous thromboembolism is more common. And a lot of people are now also completing their second jab. I, for one, have had 2 jabs of Covishield. And I know a lot of my other colleagues, doctors. And nobody has in any part of the country, because we are in the thick of it and we are talking to our colleagues all the time. Covaxin, Covishield, nothing have we seen anything like this. In fact, there was also a pseudo scare raised about stopping blood thinners in people who are to be vaccinated. So I think nothing needs to be stopped before vaccination in the form of blood thinners or antiplatelet agents. And India, for one, which has used Covishield to a large extent along with UK, has not reported any data. Remember, we are a free country. We are very transparent and nothing is opaque as far as our data is concerned. And had there been a large incidence or even significant incidence of thromboembolism, the doctors would have immediately come out with it. But we have had, in fact, forget thromboembolism, our side effect profile in the entire vaccination campaign has been very, very satisfyingly low. So we are, in fact, pushed to vaccinate more, and there is a clamor to get vaccine. So I think this social media tweeting or this press reporting is not going to cloud us, should not cloud us. And I'm happy that programs like you are enlightening the people. And I also like this fact that we can go back and look at the data and counter the claim. In fact, Oxford should come forward and tell all the countries and all the peoples that have the entire peoples of different population who have used Covishield to give their data.
Dr. Thacker, good morning. Nikunj Dalmia also joining in. In today's world, well, everything is viewed with the eye of with data analysis. What is your understanding, Dr. Thacker, as to how many AstraZeneca vaccines have been administered in the world? Because the minute we look at the unfortunate cases, which are a handful of them which have happened, and if we compare them with the number of vaccines which have been administered, I'm sure the number itself would be self-explanatory.
Absolutely. In fact, if you see the incidence of thromboembolism in the routine population, that number is a little more than the number that has been reported. I again want to allude to those 28 or 38 deaths which they reported in Scandinavia following the Pfizer vaccine. And then there was a lot of hue and cry about revisiting the Pfizer vaccine. So to use the term that they are a little more Catholic than the Pope would be too strong, but they are definitely overcautious and they want to see that every stone is left, not any stone is left unturned. Not that Oxford, India, UK or the others haven't done this. But it's all right, let them do it. We have our data. Maybe we find out when we go back that the incidence is so little that we don't need to even report it. But let the data talk for itself, and the EMA, which is currently investigating it, will come up with the data. Didn't we have so much of problems with Covaxin? And now we find people all want Covaxin. So social media, rivalry between vaccines, I don't know what's going on. I'm not making any insinuations. But data should speak for itself.
Point we're trying to bring out, and viewers, we've got 2 experts here who understand the entire vaccination process, and Dr. Pandit and Dr. Thacker are reassuring everybody that it is safe to get vaccinated in India. Dr. Pandit, let's hear that once again from you, because there are thousands and hundreds of Indians today who would be going for their first dose of vaccination, and the first concern which everyone has, that after what happened in Europe last night, should they worry? I've asked you this question, just repeat it again, sir, for us.
Thank you, Nikunj. I think I'm going to repeat it verbatim. The vaccine, Covishield and Covaxin, both are absolutely safe. The questions raised about safety of Covishield are actually quite premature and do not hold a lot of water right now. We need to go across and get ourselves vaccinated. The risk of contracting COVID and having complications because of the disease are much, much higher. The risk of having a blood clot because of a vaccine is no less than what percentage we would have if there was no vaccination program running on. That means the population percentage which would actually have thromboembolism would be same or probably even better if we had no vaccination or vaccination going on. So we should not worry about that. We should just go across and vaccinate ourselves. They're absolutely safe to vaccinate.
Thank you for that, Dr. Pandit. Dr. Thacker, if at all, if somebody is worried about symptoms, do you think the symptoms will develop in 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, or it's difficult to predict that?
First of all, I don't think there are going to be symptoms pertaining to deep vein thrombosis. But God forbid, were this to coincidentally happen for another reason, this would happen after a few days, 2, 3, 4 days, where you would get the painful swelling in the legs and other things. But I don't even want to describe these symptoms because the human mind is so susceptible that if I describe these symptoms, somebody who gets a joint pain in the knee or an ankle pain will say, look, this is because of the vaccine, whichever it was. So I think I also want to dispel doubts in people's mind who carry paracetamol in their pockets and other anti-inflammatory, and they say we want to take one before the vaccine, 1 6 hours after the vaccine. That's all bogus. You take it if you need it. Most of the time you don't need it. And when you need it, you take it. So I don't think you should look at your glass even 1/4 empty. You should look at your glass 3/4 full. And the benefits of vaccination and the prevention of COVID is much more important than trying to worry and bleak about these things which are remotely happening and which have not even been established by their own agencies.
Sure, Dr. Thacker, as well as Dr. Pandit, thank you so much for taking the time out and, really helping us clarify and resolve all our doubts around the ban for AstraZeneca vaccine in the European countries. But nothing to worry, that is the unanimous word coming in from both the doctors who we just